Whispers in the woods. The rain trail. Eli and Brooke were a young couple living in a quiet suburb of Asheville, North Carolina, nestled near the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Both were high-strung professionals. Eli worked IT for a financial firm. Brooke was a nurse who juggled night shifts. Their shared escape from the grind was weekend camping trips into the wilderness. That October morning, they set out to explore a remote trail they'd found online. Raven's Crest Loop, an isolated 3.5-mile trail ending in a flat, wooded glade rarely visited, but reviewed highly for its quiet beauty. Rain started as they neared the trailhead, but they were used to unpredictable mountain weather. Only one car was parked by the trail when they arrived, a sleek silver SUV. Strangely, its passenger door was cracked open, the seat inside soaked. No one was around. Eli shut it and dismissed it as a careless oversight. The hike was uphill and muddy. By the time they reached the glade, the forest had grown darker than usual, even for the weather. They were surprised to see a small, worn tent pitched in the middle of the site. It looked old, barely large enough for one person. Assuming the camper was inside staying dry, they set up their own tent at the far edge. Later, as they ate, the rain muffled distant voices. Eli unzipped their tent and froze. Two men knelt just feet from their shelter, silently staring. One wore a faded windbreaker, the other just jeans and a t-shirt, despite the cold rain. They eventually introduced themselves as Logan and Dean and claimed they'd been camping there for 3 days. But something was wrong. Their clothes were too clean, their gear minimal, their eyes emotionless. That night, Eli woke to relieve himself and noticed the other tent was empty, its flaps swaying in the breeze. Dread settled over him. He returned to the tent and shook Brooke awake. Then came the voices, low, whispering, close. Eli grabbed his knife and peeked outside. Logan and Dean stood among the trees, motionless, drenched, watching. No movement, no words. "Go," he whispered to Brooke. They left everything but her bag and ran. At the edge of the clearing, Eli looked back. The men hadn't moved, just standing, staring. Back at the trailhead, the same SUV sat in the dark. The passenger door open again. The police found no one when they searched days later. But the SUV belonged to a man reported missing a week earlier. His supplies were gone. His tent was the one in the middle of the clearing. The man was never found. The empty wallet. Caleb, a 32-year-old travel photographer, was in upstate Pennsylvania for a short assignment. With a rare free day before flying home, he decided to hike Deer's Hollow Trail, known for its winding paths through thick birch and maple forests. The trail was long, over 12 miles, and lonely. Caleb liked that. By noon, he was alone, taking in the crisp air. Then he saw the man. Sitting cross-legged on the trail, head bowed under a gray hoodie. As Caleb passed, the man lifted his head and stared, unblinking, unreadable. Caleb walked faster, glancing over his shoulder. 2 hours later, stopping for a snack, he heard footsteps behind him. It was the same man. This time he jogged up and held out a wallet. "You dropped this," he said. Caleb didn't carry a wallet on hikes. The one offered was old, cracked, and empty. "That's not mine," he said. "Yes, it is," the man replied flatly. "Take it." Caleb, tense and unsure, accepted the wallet. The man smiled, a thin, cold smile, and turned to walk away. Caleb stuffed the wallet in his bag and left the trail early. But as the sun began to set, he spotted a shadow crouching beside his car. He circled to the passenger side, slipped in fast, locked the doors, just as the man lunged for the driver's side. He screamed at Caleb to give it back. Caleb sped off, heart pounding. At a nearby ranger station, he turned in the wallet. No ID, no money, just something Caleb didn't notice before. A torn photo of a man standing in a forest, mouth sewn shut. No one ever identified the man from the trail. The Loop Trail Stalker. Jason, 27, was a solo adventurer who often hiked alone when his friends couldn't join. One late October weekend, he revisited an old favorite, Whistler's Loop, a 24-hour trail weaving through hills and dense pine forest in northern Georgia. He saw no one for miles. The wind whispered between the trees. Then, up ahead, a man appeared. He walked slowly. No pack, no gear, no water bottle. Jason nodded as they passed, but the man turned after they passed and asked, "Where's your group?" Jason lied. "They're behind me, catching up." The man smiled. "Good." Jason walked faster. That night, he camped off trail in a hidden grove. As he tried to sleep, footsteps crunched in the leaves behind his tent. They stopped just 15 feet away. He waited. No voice, no movement. Just silence. At dawn, Jason packed in fear. When he stepped behind his tent, he found clear footprints in the soft earth. Someone had stood there, watching, waiting. He sprinted back to the main path and hiked for hours, glancing behind him constantly. He never saw the man again. He did report it to the park rangers, but there was little they could do. Jason never camped alone again.